Welcome to my channel Valuable Rare Coins because, as you know, old is gold. Some of the rarest coins worth big money could be hiding in your hands right now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and watch till the end. Let's dive in. First, we're taking a deep dive into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and potentially valuable coins still circulating in the United States, the 1971 D. Lincoln penny, also known as the 1971 Denver Mint 1-cent coin. Now, to most people, this is just a small, copper-colored coin, a common piece of pocket change that many wouldn't even think twice about. But for collectors, numismatists, and coin hunters across the country, this coin holds a secret. A secret that could turn your average penny into a once-in-a-lifetime payday. That's right, the 1971 D. Lincoln penny might just be worth a small fortune if you know what to look for. Let's go back in time to understand the importance of this coin. The year was 1971. America was still in the middle of the Vietnam War. Walt Disney World had just opened in Florida, and in Denver, the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies as part of everyday American commerce. These coins featured the same classic design introduced in 1959, the bust of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The D mint mark located just beneath the year indicates it was minted in Denver. Sounds like just another penny, right? Not quite. While over 2 billion of these coins were struck, a small number of them left the Denver Mint with rare and valuable errors that were never supposed to happen and that are now making collectors go wild. These errors are the golden ticket when it comes to coin collecting. They're the rare missteps that occurred during the minting process, making certain 1971 D pennies dramatically more valuable than others. One of the most prized errors to look for is the double die obverse. Now, this is when the coin was struck twice by misaligned dies, causing the design to appear slightly duplicated, especially in the lettering and numbers. You'll want to look closely at words like Liberty, In God We Trust, and the date 1971. If you spot a doubling effect on these letters or numbers, you might just be holding something very special in your hands. This doubling isn't just a cool visual glitch, it's a major find. Coins with this type of error are highly desirable among collectors and can sell for thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars, depending on their condition and clarity of the doubling. Another remarkable and highly collectible variation is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin blank, known as a planchet, is not properly aligned within the coin press. The result? A coin that appears skewed, with part of the design missing and a blank crescent along the edge. Some off-center strikes are subtle, but others are dramatic, making the error even more appealing to collectors. But the rarest and most thrilling of all are the wrong planchet errors. These are coins that were mistakenly struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. Imagine a penny struck on a dime-sized blank or a coin with unusual coloration or weight. These minting anomalies are extremely rare, and when discovered, they fetch astronomical prices on the collector's market. And speaking of weight, did you know that the composition of pennies changed just a few years later? In 1982, the U.S. Mint switched from copper to zinc due to rising metal costs. But in 1971, pennies were still made primarily of copper, and they should weigh about 3.11 grams. So if you come across a 1971 D penny that weighs significantly more or less, that's another red flag. Well, more like a green flag for value. So, how do you go about checking your coins? First, gather every penny you've got from 1971 with a D mint mark. Take a magnifying glass, a good light source, and a precise digital scale. Examine the date, lettering, and mint mark for any doubling or irregularities. Weigh your coin carefully. Look for anything off, strange textures, odd spacing, misalignments, or color variations, and don't forget about coin grading. Condition is everything in the collector's world. Coins that have never been circulated, known as uncirculated or in mint state, are the top of the line. The best way to determine this is to submit your coin to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies evaluate the coin's authenticity, errors, and physical condition, then seal it in a protective case with a grade. A high-grade 1971 D penny with a rare error can multiply in value many times over. But why is there such high demand for this coin today? Part of it is historical. The Lincoln penny is one of the most beloved and collected coins in U.S. history. Everyone knows it, and everyone has touched one. But only a select few know the secrets that lie within a small number of these coins, like the 1971 D with specific mint errors. Another reason is sheer rarity. Out of billions produced, only a handful of double die, off-center, or wrong planchet 1971 D pennies exist in collectible condition. These coins are not just currency, they're rare artifacts, unintentional creations that tell the story of the minting process and the imperfections that slipped through the cracks. For collectors, that story is worth big money. Just recently, one of these incredibly rare 1971 D Lincoln pennies caused a major stir in the coin community. A specimen that featured a distinct mint error, preserved in pristine condition, was offered at auction. It attracted enormous attention from collectors, investors, and historians alike. And when the final bid came in, it left everyone speechless. So here it is, the moment you've been waiting for. Just how much could one of these rare 1971 D Lincoln pennies be worth today? One extraordinary example of a 1971 D penny, featuring a stunning error and in exceptional condition, has sold for an unbelievable $98,000. Yes, you heard that right, $98,000 for a 1-cent coin that most people would never even glance at twice. This is why we always say, don't underestimate your pocket change. It only takes one lucky find to change your entire perspective, and maybe even your life. So go check your coin jars, your old piggy banks, your rolls of pennies. Examine every 1971 D Lincoln cent you can get your hands on. That little copper coin could be a hidden gem just waiting to be discovered. Second rare coin. We're diving deep into a very special coin, a quiet underdog in the world of American coin collecting. It's the 1967 Lincoln penny. Now, at first glance, this coin might look just like any other ordinary 1-cent piece. You might have tossed it in a jar, dropped it into a vending machine, or passed it along without thinking twice. But believe me when I say, this is a coin you want to pay attention to. Let's rewind for a moment and set the historical stage. The year is 1967. America is in the middle of cultural revolution, space exploration is on the rise, and the coinage system is going through some major changes. This was a time of transition for the U.S. Mint. Due to a national coin shortage in the mid-60s, the Mint made a few dramatic decisions, one of which would directly affect the 1967 Lincoln cent. To speed up production and discourage hoarding. The U.S. Mint temporarily removed mint marks from all coins in 1965, 1966, and 1967. So even though 1967 pennies were minted at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, none of them carry a mint mark. That detail alone makes this coin stand out, especially for collectors who are trying to assemble full sets from different mints. But the real magic lies deeper, beneath the surface of ordinary circulation. While billions of these coins were produced, not all of them are created equal. What makes the 1967 Lincoln penny truly fascinating are the rare varieties and minting errors that have emerged over the years. And those rare versions? They've caught the attention of serious collectors and have commanded jaw-dropping prices at auction. One of the most talked about rarities is the double die obverse. This happens when the coins die. The metal piece that stamps the image strikes the planchet twice, slightly misaligned. The result is a distinct doubling effect, most visible in the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the date 1967. If you spot this doubling, especially with clear separation between the letters, you might be holding an ultra-rare variety worth far more than 1 cent, but that's not the only error to look out for. Another highly collectible version is the off-center strike. This occurs when the planchet is not perfectly positioned during minting, causing the image to be shifted to one side. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if the date is still fully visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. Let's not forget about die cracks, cuds, and struck-through errors, which are also present in some 1967 pennies. A die crack appears as a raised line on the surface of the coin, while a cud is a lump of extra metal, usually on the rim. Struck-through errors happen when something like a piece of cloth or debris gets between the die and the planchet during minting, leaving a strange indentation or impression. These kinds of minting mistakes turn an ordinary penny into a one-of-a-kind collectible, but perhaps the most mysterious and exciting 1967 penny variety is the wrong planchet error. Imagine a Lincoln penny that was struck on a dime-sized blank or even a foreign coin's planchet. These are extremely rare and often discovered completely by accident. The moment they're authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, their value skyrockets, sometimes to levels no one ever expected. So, how do you check if you've got a valuable 1967 penny? First, examine the coin closely under magnification. Look for doubling on the lettering and numbers, check for off-center designs, and inspect the rim and fields for any unusual marks or raised areas. Weighing the coin is also a great trick. Normal 1967 pennies made of copper should weigh about 3.11 grams. Anything significantly lighter or heavier might be a clue to something rare. Condition matters too. Coins in mint state, meaning they were never circulated, hold significantly higher value. The shinier, cleaner, and sharper your penny looks, the better your chances of having something truly valuable. If you believe your coin might be rare, the next step is to send it off for professional grading and authentication. That step alone can make all the difference in value, especially when it comes to selling or auctioning. Now, let's talk about the market. The interest in Lincoln pennies, especially rare ones, has exploded in recent years. Collectors all over the world are building sets, hunting for errors, and paying top dollar for the rarest examples. Coin collecting isn't just a hobby anymore, it's a serious investment, and certain coins are being treated like pieces of fine art or vintage sports cards. In fact, some of the highest prices paid in recent auctions have been for Lincoln cents, and the 1967 variety is right up there with them, when it carries the right features. These are the kinds of finds that change the game for collectors, coin dealers, and even families who accidentally stumble across them in old drawers or inherited jars of coins. And now, for the part you've been waiting for. After all this buildup, how much could a rare 1967 Lincoln penny actually be worth? Let me tell you, one rare era variety of the 1967 Lincoln penny, in mint state condition, authenticated and graded by professionals, sold at auction for an absolutely incredible $135,000. Yes, you heard that right. One single penny sold for $135,000. It's hard to believe, but it's real. And it's why coin collectors around the world are constantly on the hunt for coins just like this one. So now it's your turn. Go check those old change jars, dig into that coin collection you inherited, or even take a closer look at your next handful of pennies from the bank. You never know what might be hiding there. That ordinary-looking copper coin could actually be your ticket to something extraordinary. Third expensive coin, we're talking about a small copper coin that could be worth far more than anyone ever expected, the 1970 Lincoln penny. That's right. A simple 1-cent coin from over 5 decades ago could be hiding a secret that turns it into a true collector's dream. At first glance, the 1970 penny may not look like much. It features the familiar image of President Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. It's the same design we've seen since 1959. But not all 1970 pennies are the same, and not all of them are worth just 1 cent. In fact, some of them are worth thousands. And one very special version has made headlines by fetching a truly staggering sum. Let's first take a step back into history. The year 1970 was a turning point in America. The Vietnam War was raging, the country was divided, and protest movements were shaking cities from coast to coast. At the same time, the U.S. Mint was quietly continuing its work, producing billions of coins for everyday use, including the humble Lincoln penny. But within that massive production, something fascinating happened. The 1970 Lincoln penny was minted in both Philadelphia and San Francisco, and here's where things get interesting. You may find these coins without a mint mark, which means they were minted in Philadelphia. Or you might find one with a small S below the date. Those were minted in San Francisco. But among these everyday coins, a handful of rare and highly collectible versions emerged. and collectors have been chasing them ever since. One of the most exciting and valuable varieties is the 1970 S small date penny. At first glance, it looks exactly like any other 1970 penny. But upon closer inspection, the size and shape of the date, especially the number 7, tells a different story. In the small date version, the 7 sits higher and appears thinner than in the large date version. It's a subtle difference that can easily be missed, which is why these coins are often overlooked, until someone looks closely and realizes they've been holding a hidden gem all along. But wait, there's more. Some of the 1970 S pennies also have what's called a double die obverse. This means that during the minting process, the die struck the coin twice, slightly off position. The result is a coin where parts of the design appear doubled. If you look at Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date and see any doubling, then congratulations, you might have a very rare and valuable coin on your hands, and collectors absolutely love double die errors. They represent minting anomalies that are often difficult to detect and even harder to find in pristine condition. Combine a double die error with a small date, and suddenly, that ordinary-looking penny becomes an extraordinary collector's piece. Now, let's talk about condition. If your 1970 penny has been sitting untouched, maybe tucked away in a collection, an old box, or passed down from a relative, and it still looks shiny, bright, and crisp, then its value could be significantly higher. Coins that are graded as mint state or uncirculated, usually labeled MS 65 or higher by professional grading services, are what collectors are after. These coins have never been used in everyday transactions and still look almost exactly as they did when they left the mint. So, how can you tell if you've got a special 1970 penny? First, check if there's a mint mark. If there's an S under the date, examine the numbers closely. Compare the height and shape of the 7 to images online of the small date versus large date. If you spot that higher, thinner 7, you may already be holding something valuable. Then, look at the letters. Is there any doubling on Liberty? Are the words slightly blurred or overlapping? That could be a sign of a double die. It's also a good idea to weigh your coin. Regular 1970 pennies were still made of 95% copper and should weigh about 3.11 grams. Any strange variation in weight could point to a planchet error, another form of rarity. And remember, always handle your coins carefully and get them evaluated by a professional grader like PCGS or NGC if you suspect you have something rare. Collectors today are more active than ever. With rising interest in coin collecting thanks to YouTube, TikTok, online auctions, and coin shows, the market for error coins and rare date varieties has skyrocketed. Every year, new record prices are being set for coins that once sat unnoticed in drawers, boxes, and old jars. The 1970 penny is one of those coins that's been overlooked for decades, but now it's finally getting the attention it deserves. Stories continue to pop up about collectors who found a 1970 S small date double die penny by accident, sometimes in pocket change, sometimes in inherited coin collections. What started out as a curiosity ended with a big surprise when the coin was authenticated and graded. These pennies, when verified and in top condition, are now considered high-value assets. They're not just coins, they're history, rarity, and art, all rolled into one copper disc. And now, here's the part you've all been waiting for. Just how much can one of these rare 1970 Lincoln pennies actually be worth? Believe it or not, a 1970 S small date Lincoln penny with a strong double die error, certified in mint state condition, has been sold at a prestigious auction for an astonishing $80,000. Yes, $80,000 for a penny that once cost just 1 cent to use, spend, or forget in your couch cushions. That's the kind of story that makes this hobby so thrilling. Because every penny you pick up, every coin you check, might be the one that changes everything. So go check those old coin rolls, search through your family's coin collection, or take a second look at the change in your pocket. If you find a 1970 Lincoln penny, especially one with that elusive S mint mark, take a closer look. You might just be holding your next big discovery. Especially, we're talking about a small copper coin with a huge secret, the 1966 Lincoln penny. Now, don't let its size fool you. This tiny coin, only worth a single cent when it was first made, could actually be worth an eye-popping amount of money if you happen to have the right one. So stay with us until the very end, because we're going to reveal what exactly makes this penny special, what to look for, and just how much it could sell for in today's collector market. Let's take a journey back to 1966. The United States was in the heart of the 1960s, a decade of change, protest, music, and movement. The Vietnam War was escalating, civil rights marches filled the streets, and on a more quiet note, the U.S. Mint was pumping out coins to meet rising national demand. Among those coins was the classic Lincoln cent, a coin that's been in circulation since 1909 and has long held a place in the hearts of American collectors. The 1966 Lincoln penny followed the same beloved design, the profile of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But 1966 wasn't an ordinary year for coin production. The mint was still recovering from a national coin shortage that had gripped the country just a few years earlier. To combat coin hoarding and encourage circulation, the mint made a big decision. No coins in 1965, 1966, or 1967 would carry a mint mark, even though they were still being produced in multiple facilities like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. This simple detail makes the 1966 Lincoln cent unique, and it set the stage for what would become one of the most interesting coins in U.S. history. But here's where things get really exciting, because some of these 1966 pennies came out of the mint with errors and variations that were never meant to exist. And those are the coins that collectors are willing to pay big money for today. Let's talk about double die errors, one of the most sought-after and fascinating mistakes in the coin world. These occur when a coin's die strikes the blank twice in slightly different positions. On the 1966 Lincoln penny, you might see doubling in the word Liberty, in God We Trust, or even in the date itself. That extra shadow, that overlapping effect, it's not wear and tear. It's a valuable mistake made at the mint. Another rare error to look out for is the off-center strike. This happens when the coin isn't properly aligned during the minting process, and the result is a coin with an image pushed to one side, sometimes leaving a blank crescent along the edge. The more dramatic the misalignment, and the more visible the date, the higher its value. If you find a 1966 penny with a major off-center strike and a fully readable date, you might be looking at something incredibly rare. Then we have the clipped planchet error, where a portion of the coin is actually missing, almost like someone took a bite out of it. These coins weren't damaged after they left the mint. They were actually cut incorrectly before the coin was ever struck. They're quirky, rare, and very collectible. There are even reports of wrong planchet errors, where the 1966 Lincoln penny was accidentally struck on a dime planchet. These errors are extremely rare but unbelievably valuable when discovered and authenticated. If your penny looks too shiny, too small, or feels unusually light, it might be worth weighing it. A normal 1966 penny should weigh around 3.11 grams. Anything drastically lighter could be a clue that you're holding something truly special. But even without an error, condition matters. A 1966 penny that has never been circulated, what collectors call a mint state coin, can still hold real value. If it's shiny, unmarked, and still carries that fresh from the mint look, it can be worth far more than face value. Grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins and assign them a condition score. Coins graded MS 65 or higher are especially valuable and extremely appealing to serious collectors. Now here's something that will really open your eyes. Demand is soaring for rare Lincoln cents. Social media platforms, online auctions, and collector forums have brought a new generation into the coin collecting world, and everyone is searching for that one coin that stands out. The 1966 penny, with its missing mint mark and the potential for rare errors, has become a major target for those looking to find the next big thing in numismatics. And let's not forget, stories are constantly surfacing about people who discovered a rare coin in the most unexpected places. Some found them in an inherited coin jar. Others discovered them in rolls of pennies they got from the bank. It proves one thing: these coins are still out there, and you could be the next lucky person to find one. So, how do you get started? Easy. Grab a magnifying glass, good lighting, and start going through your pennies. Look closely at every 1966 penny you find. Examine the date and the lettering for signs of doubling. Check the coin's weight, edges, and overall condition. And if you think you've found something worth investigating, get it professionally graded. It could be the smartest move you ever make, because here's the moment you've been waiting for, the answer to the big question. What is the most a 1966 Lincoln penny has ever been worth? Well, believe it or not, one rare and extraordinary 1966 Lincoln cent, featuring a minting error and preserved in brilliant, uncirculated condition, was authenticated and sold at auction for an astounding $100,000. Yes, you heard that right. $100,000. For a single penny that many people would have never thought twice about. That's the kind of discovery that turns a regular day into a moment of pure gold. And it's why collectors like you keep searching, keep learning, and keep believing that the next great find might be just one coin away. So don't wait. Start looking today. And if you've got a 1966 penny that looks different, or if you've found a coin you're not sure about, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your story and help you figure out if you're sitting on a treasure. Next coin, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and overlooked coins in American history, the 1964 Lincoln penny. This is not just another old coin. This might be the one hiding right under your nose, waiting to change your life. The Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909 and has become one of the most iconic pieces of U.S. currency. Most of us have seen hundreds, if not thousands, of these coins in our lifetime. But very few people realize that certain years, certain mintings, and certain hidden errors can turn an ordinary penny into a small fortune. And when it comes to 1964, there's a lot more than meets the eye. Let's rewind time for a moment and look at the historical backdrop. It's 1964. The Beatles have just taken America by storm, civil rights movements are rising across the nation, and the world is changing fast. And while all this is happening, the U.S. Mint is quietly producing billions of Lincoln cents, over 6.4 billion of them, in fact. Most of these pennies came from the Philadelphia and Denver mints. You'll find the Denver versions marked with a small D just below the date. But even with so many minted, a small handful of these coins turned out to be extraordinarily rare, and that's what we're here to talk about. You see, in 1964, the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure due to a national coin shortage. To keep up with demand, coins were being produced at record speed. And when speed increases, so does the chance for mistakes, and in the world of coin collecting, mistakes mean money. Some of the most valuable 1964 Lincoln pennies are those with minting errors. One of the most famous and sought-after varieties is the double die obverse. This error happens when the coin die strikes the same coin more than once, but slightly misaligned. If you spot doubling in the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or in the actual date 1964, then you're looking at a double die. And if it's strong and crisp, congratulations, you might be holding a gem. Another incredible error to look out for is the off-center strike. Imagine a coin where the design has been shifted dramatically to one side. Sometimes a portion of the coin is even blank. These misstrikes are not only visually stunning, but also extremely valuable when the date is still fully visible. The more extreme the misalignment, the more desirable the coin becomes to collectors. We also have the clipped planchet error, which happens when part of the metal blank was accidentally sliced off before the coin was struck. This results in a noticeable chunk missing from the coin, and when it's authentic, it can dramatically increase the value. Another jaw-dropping mistake is the wrong planchet error, where a 1964 penny was accidentally struck on a blank meant for another denomination, like a dime. These coins look strange, feel different, and often weigh less than normal, but they're worth hunting down. Now, let's talk about something that's even more important than the error itself: the condition of the coin. A 1964 Lincoln penny in heavily circulated condition will always be worth around face value. But if you happen to find one in mint state condition, especially graded MS 65 or higher, the value jumps significantly. A mint state coin has never been in circulation. It's clean, sharp, and often has a brilliant luster. Combine that with a rare error, and you're talking about serious value. You might be asking yourself, but how do I know if my penny is special? Great question. Start by looking closely at the date and the lettering. Use a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe to examine every detail. Check for doubling, unusual shapes in the numbers, or letters that appear thicker or shadowed. Weigh the coin. A standard 1964 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it's significantly heavier or lighter, that's a red flag in a good way. Once you think you might have a rare penny, send it in to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. These companies verify the coin's authenticity, determine its grade, and encapsulate it for protection. Not only does this make it easier to sell or auction later, but it also builds trust with buyers, and that means more money in your pocket if you ever choose to part with your prize. You might be thinking, but 1964 pennies are everywhere, aren't they? Yes, but remember, rarity isn't just about the year. It's about the combination of year, condition, and era. It's that perfect storm that transforms a penny into a collector's dream. And the market right now? It's hotter than ever. Collectors are scouring auction sites, estate sales, and coin shops looking for just one chance to grab a rare find like this. And with more people entering the world of numismatics, the demand keeps climbing. There are true stories out there. Real people who stumbled upon a rare 1964 penny in a jar of old change or inside a forgotten coin roll and turned it into an unforgettable payday. And here's the thing, those stories don't just happen to professionals. They happen to everyday people who took the time to look closely, to learn the signs, and to believe that something small could be worth something huge. So don't dismiss that penny in your hand. Don't ignore that coin at the bottom of your drawer. Because it might just be the one. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Just how much can a rare 1964 Lincoln penny actually be worth? One incredibly rare 1964 Lincoln penny, featuring a striking error and preserved in flawless, mint state condition, was verified by a professional grading service and sold at auction for an astonishing $150,000. Yes, you heard that right, $150,000. All for a coin that, once upon a time, cost a single cent to make and spend. That's the power of rarity. That's the power of knowledge. And that's the magic of coin collecting. So, what are you waiting for? Start searching, start checking, and you might just become the next lucky collector with a hidden fortune in the palm of your hand. If you think you've got something special, leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear your story and maybe even feature it in a future video. Last unique coin, we're unlocking the secrets of the 1980 Lincoln penny. This isn't just any coin from your change jar. This could be a hidden treasure that's worth far more than anyone expects. Now you might be thinking, 1980 wasn't that long ago, and I've seen those pennies everywhere. And yes, the 1980 penny is still fairly common in circulation today. But here's the exciting twist. Some of these pennies are incredibly rare, and their value has skyrocketed in the collector's market. While most people wouldn't think twice about tossing one into a tip jar or coin machine, a select few of these coins have the potential to be truly life-changing. Let's first set the stage. It's the year 1980. America is going through a time of change. Ronald Reagan is preparing to become president. Technology is advancing rapidly, and the U.S. Mint is doing its job, striking millions upon millions of Lincoln cents for everyday use. That little D under the date on the coin tells us it was minted in Denver, one of the main U.S. mint facilities. Now, here's where things start to get really interesting. While billions of Lincoln pennies were minted in 1980, the vast majority were used in everyday commerce and became worn, scratched, and dented over time. But a very small percentage were struck with errors or maintained in such perfect condition that collectors today are paying serious money to get their hands on them. Let's talk about some of those rare and valuable features that can take an ordinary 1980 penny and turn it into a collector's dream. One of the most exciting things to look for is a double die. This happens when the coin is struck more than once by the die, but slightly off from the first strike. This causes certain details on the coin, like the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or even the date, to appear slightly doubled. If you look closely and notice this doubling, especially with a magnifying glass, you could be staring at something extremely rare and valuable. Another key error to watch for is the off-center strike. This means that during the minting process, the coin wasn't properly aligned and was struck off-center. Some off-center strikes are minor, but others are dramatic, sometimes with 10%, 20%, or even more of the coin's design shifted completely to one side. The more off-center the strike, the more valuable the coin can be, especially if the full date is still visible. There's also something called a broad strike error, where the coin was minted outside of the collar that normally gives it that perfect circular shape. These coins look slightly distorted or stretched, and again, that's music to a collector's ears. Why? Because they are one-of-a-kind mistakes, and in numismatics, unique means valuable, and it doesn't stop there. Occasionally, a penny like the 1980 D may have been struck on the wrong planchet, meaning it was accidentally made using a blank meant for another coin, like a dime or a foreign denomination. These mistakes are extremely rare and fascinating to collectors. If your 1980 D penny looks a bit too shiny, feels too light, or has unusual coloring, it could be a rare off-metal error. Let's not forget the most fundamental factor in coin value: condition. Even without major errors, a 1980 D penny in mint state condition, meaning it's never been used, never circulated, and looks just like it did when it left the mint, can be worth much more than face value. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins and assign them a grade on a 70-point scale. Coins graded MS 65 or higher are especially attractive to collectors because of their sharp details and pristine surfaces. So, how do you know if your penny is special? First, check the coin under good lighting or with a magnifying glass. Examine the date, the mint mark, and the lettering for any doubling, unusual shapes, or off-center designs. Check the coin's color and edges. Any imperfections or striking anomalies could mean you've found something rare. And most importantly, weigh the coin. A standard 1980 D penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it's made of copper. If it weighs significantly more or less, you might be holding an error coin struck on the wrong metal. Coin collecting is like treasure hunting. The thrill is in the unknown. That little coin you almost spent at the grocery store could actually be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. And the most incredible part? These discoveries often come from everyday people, folks who took the time to look closely, do a little research, and ask the right questions. The 1980 D penny may not be ancient, but in the coin world, age is only one part of the story. Condition, rarity, and error are what drive serious value. And with new collectors entering the market every day, the demand for these high-quality and unusual coins is growing fast. Auction prices are rising. Private sales are booming. The coin market is hotter than ever, and now, for the moment you've been waiting for. You're probably wondering, what's the highest price a 1980 D Lincoln penny has ever sold for? Well, buckle up, because one verified 1980 D Lincoln penny, featuring a rare error and preserved in spectacular mint state condition, has been sold at auction for a jaw-dropping total of $50,000. Yes, that's right, $50,000. For a coin most people wouldn't think twice about. For a penny that could have easily been dropped, forgotten, or lost. But in the world of rare coins, every detail matters, and sometimes those little copper discs are worth their weight in gold. So don't ignore your pennies. Start searching, start examining, and most importantly, start believing. Because the next rare discovery might be waiting in your pocket, in an old piggy bank, or inside a forgotten coin roll. If you think you've found something unusual or valuable, drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your story, help you identify your coin, and maybe even feature it in a future video. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next treasure hunt. Thanks for watching, and remember, every penny has a story, and yours might just be worth a fortune.